All right, we're going to review for exam one, which covers just one chapter, but one of the most critical chapters we have, chapter one. Um, the exam will be on Moodle, and it will be all online, covering the chapter and the online materials that we've viewed so far. It's worth 50 points. Will be primarily multiple choice questions, some true false, maybe a fill in the blank, and maybe one essay. And so the key thing here is to look over old quizzes, look at chapter one, look at the summary materials. Um, and so just a quick review to highlight what's important, and the exam will appear in the first box, and you can look at that this week. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to talk about what is biology. It's the study of life, and they went through the different types of organisms there. That was kind of a key thing. So this is just kind of a little graphic showing that. Be able to define biology, and use that as you can. The characteristics of life, that was kind of a key thing. They went through the basic characteristics. Living organisms are organized into cells. They respond to their environment. They have a unique chemistry, and they do chemical reactions. That's metabolism. They operate by this principle of homeostasis. That'll be a big thing for us later. And living organisms grow, develop, they reproduce. They pass down genetic material, and that material can change over time so they can adapt and evolve. Now, for humans are have biological characteristics that place them in the mammals and in the primates. They are warm-blooded animals with hair. They give birth to live young. They nourish them with milk. Humans have large brains compared to other animals and extremely flexible behavior. They do things that relatively few animals do, and no animal does it to the extent that we do. They use tools, they use language, they have a culture that they transmit and pass down. Anatomically, they have hands with opposable thumbs, fingernails, not claws, no external tail, and humans are extremely social. They live in groups for the most part, and they take care of their offspring during a long childhood, and they have a relatively long life. Animals also, we're going to talk about humans and these biological traits, but we're also going to talk about them in a scientific way. And science is a systematic way of studying the natural world. Scientists make observations that they can repeat. They describe those observations, they record them, and they use them to ask questions, to determine possible answers, and that they can test. So these are alternatives often. They'll test several alternatives, and they'll use those to make predictions, and then they'll compare them to evidence. Remember, good science predicts new evidence and relies on stronger types of evidence, like randomized clinical trials. Not so much things like case reports and opinion pieces and letters, but strong types of evidence. The best science uses multiple evidence to sort out ideas, and it eliminates wrong ideas. You really can't prove something 100% correct, but you can prove it as the best alternative by eliminating less useful alternatives. In science, the key thing is the evidence. Scientists use many different kinds of evidence, and predicting new evidence is really good. The more evidence, the better. And in science, we have rules that everyone can see the evidence, and they can discuss it, and the evidence should be repeatable. Okay, and so these are really key ideas that we'll touch on over and over again, but here they're presented explicitly, and so for the first time. They also talked a little bit about learning about science and using, your judgment to evaluate science. That we learn about science from several different types of sources, but mostly from sources that aren't primary. They're kind of down the line. These include things like news media, social media, and word of mouth. And so you're getting the science not from actually looking at the evidence or directly from the people that are doing it, but kind of down the line, someone summarizing it. Um, Often science is opposed by misinformation and disinformation, and and these are important kind of sources of wrong ideas. Misinformation is just mistaken ideas that are easily spread. People that have them don't necessarily realize they're wrong. They may sound logical and appealing, but they're mistaken. Disinformation is deliberate. It's deliberately intending to lead you astray. And often this is by people that have financial interests or other interests in you not learning about science. And so in democracies, we're kind of, that's one of our job, is to sort out right and wrong information. And of course, with the internet, it's harder now than ever because anybody can make a pretty nice website. And so that's one thing that we can kind of have to deal with. And one of the strengths of democracies is that we can change our leaders, that we can, when it becomes clear that someone is doing something that's not going to work, we can vote them out and and put in someone that's going to do something else. And so that's one of our strengths. And in the last 200 years, we've kind of seen that strength is really important. That dictators and kings, and sometimes even really successful businessmen, often don't want to hear ideas that go against theirs, even though they're the truth. And so sometimes it's much better to face up to wrong information and choose better information. And so we'll talk a lot about this. How do you know an idea is scientifically the best idea that we have at the time? And that's really using evidence to evaluate alternatives. Okay, so the first exam should open soon. Check the dates. You'll have 3 days, I think, to take it, and you only get to log in once. So it's not a repeat thing, and it's time limited. So once you open it, you've only got one shot. So good luck, study hard, and we'll see how it goes.